kind of about music podcast.
Don't really need to start wiping your head.
Just that's how we start.
But at least your beard's wicked.
Johnny, welcome to the podcast. This is Jonny Brister, session drummer based in London, kind of half based in New York these days as well.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, dude, that's a good thing to put on your CV as well.
I know, do you know, I feel like you can put anything on your CV and you can make it sound good, right?
Oh, yeah.
Is that the idea?
I think so. But I think also New York. Oh, this guy's based in New York as well. He's got some New York stuff going on. I think that's... That's something that people... Look at this light. It's not even pointing at me. Fucking hell.
Do you know what? This has been so great how we've started this. People need to know that we've started with like a little barber's.
It's true, yeah.
And Jim, his beard was so messy. And we were out... it was Natalie's gig, wasn't it? Natalie Palmer, who is called Tally. She's great, but we were at her gig.
Yes.
And I saw Jim...
In Camden.
And I used to have this huge beard, and I saw Jim, I was like, dude, your beard's so cool, but it needs a cut.
Yep.
So we just said, right, let's do a podcast, and I'm coming to cut your beard.
Yes, mate. Well, you were one of the first people that I spoke to when I first started this podcast. When I first had the idea, because I had the idea because of watching stuff like the Joe Rogan podcast, and there's a thing called the Adam Buxton thing now, which I haven't listened to, but I just thought it'd be good for session musicians and musicians, artists, people in London trying to do something in music, if they had a thing where they could hear other musicians talking, and because, like, just out of interest as well, but also because I think it's really taxing on your brain, maybe more than other professions, maybe not because I don't do them, but I think people go through a lot trying to make this business work, because for most the rewards aren't that big. Like if you're working as a kind of normal session musician, you know, somebody who's intelligent enough to do that can maybe transition to another career and earn twice as much. So I think there's that side of it, and there's lots of stuff to do with kind of rejection and practicing and all that sort of thing. So I thought just a situation where people could talk and see other people going through similar things to what they're going through.
Totally. Actually, one of the things I loved about this when you said you were doing it was when I moved to London, which was, well, in September it would be 5 years. Yeah. I was like, I know nothing about what goes on here. Yeah. You make these assumptions.
Yep.
Am I good enough?
Yep.
Should I be doing this? This is crazy.
Yep.
How much does it cost to live there?
Yep.
What do people do to make a living? And I knew nobody. And like having this, I hope, if anything, like if anyone's going to watch this, I hope that it's informative and it's somewhat interesting, and people can, I don't know, inspiring for the guys at college or kids at school that can go, that's what happens. Yeah. I hope anyway. You know, and I think that's good. I love what you're doing here.
Oh, thank you so much, man. It'd be better if I got this mic to be more... It's just
also,
been a
I'm
nightmare
talking
today.
Away from the mic. I'm not a singer, so I'm assuming this is cool.
It'll pick it up, it's fine. No, that's nice of you to say, man. It definitely is. We actually moved to London at the same time, I think, roughly. Like 5 years for me coming up as well.
September 2013 for me.
Yeah, so bad we're thinking back about dates. I have to literally sit down and write it out. This happened then, this happened then.
I base it on like serious, like big events in my life.
Right, okay.
Like I remember, so I used to run a teaching business. Yeah. I'm from Somerset. Yeah. So out in the sticks, we had like 300 kids a week we used to teach. And then that stopped end of 2012. Yeah. On the day that I met actually one of my favourite drummers, Donovan Hepburn, which was then to lead on to something again in London. And anyway, the business stopped. So I remember that at the end of 2012, and I decided I'm going to London, September 2013. Yeah. I turned up August 31st, 2013, and I moved in.
Oh yeah, great.
So like,
when did you move? Who did you move in with originally?
Well, I moved in with a band called the Buzzard Orchestral, who are no longer, unfortunately. They're all actually, two of them are from the same school as me. Yeah. And then the other two I'd met through the band. Mm. So they were like, do you want to join our band? I was like, totally. I'm not in a band at the moment. I grew up in the original scene. Like I was always in bands. I had a great time, loved it. So I moved in with them to Tooting. And I never went to uni.
Some of the best crews in London in Tooting.
Apparently so. I don't actually know this. I found out this when I left Tooting.
Right, okay.
So anyway, I moved in with those guys. We're like, let's give the band a go. And then it got to the point that I was like, I don't really want to do the original band thing anymore. I was 26, coming up 27. And I loved the guys so much, and they were a great band. But I'd done so many bands, and it was always somebody who didn't want to be in it. It was always somebody who didn't care.
Yeah.
I became that person that didn't care.
Right.
I got fed up of playing to 10 people in a pub, getting a parking ticket, getting a box junction fine,
Mate.
and went, I ain't doing this anymore.
Yeah.
And that's where it flipped for me.
Yeah.
And I moved to London with the band, but also to do session.
One of the best ones about that original gig was like, oh, you're going to be headliners, and you'd think, oh, headliners, and you're like, in a city I've never been to before.
Who the fuck's going to come and watch us?
Yeah, it's like basically you're the band that goes on after the last bus has gone.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
And it's like the middle band always bring everybody,
Yeah.
and then all their fans leave.
Yeah,
Or
and the
they
middle
go up to
band's
the
always
bar,
like, it's always like some 17-year-olds who just bring their kids from sixth form, bring their mates
and
from
they all
sixth
turn
form.
up.
Yeah.
And they don't care about the headline.
No.
So it's actually better when someone goes, we're on second from last, and you're like, yes, that's the slot.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just become really hard, and it still is hard for original bands and
What sort
artists.
of music was that you were doing?
It was rock, but
Yeah.
it was, I guess it had an element of indie rock.
Yeah.
Interesting writers like Seb Truman, who's now a great engineer producer. Really interesting way of writing that I almost wanted to rebel against because it was so different than what I did. But you learn from that. And Lewis George, who's a great friend of mine, that I have no doubt we would do an original project again in the future. Who was such a great lyricist and bass player.
Right.
And these dudes are from Somerset, like this sleepy little place.
Yeah.
That there's some great musicians about.
Oh, yeah. I think those. But by the way, going back to the 10 people in the pub, we were metal bands when we turned up, so we
So
had
we went down
5.
to 3.
Yeah.
There was 5, and then there was 3.
Yeah. It's because there'd always be 2 other bands on, and one of them would have left. So it's just playing to the one.
And there's always these promoters that go, right, so on first you've got this acoustic act.
Yeah.
In the middle we've got this heavy metal band, and then we've got this like folk band going to finish. It's like, what are you doing? Like, and this is kind of the problem and my hate of London for original music. Like, we used to say, well, we have to play London. If you played London...
Yeah, that's what we said.
And I remember in 2012, I did this tour with my band at the time called Marshalltown. Again, with like some of my best mates. Phil Beaver, who's the drummer for Inglorious. He was the front man because he's like the sickest musician ever. And he was the reason I started playing drums, actually.
Right.
And we went on tour with this Italian band that I'd met in a previous band years ago. And we were like, right, we're going to play our hometown, Ilminster. Absolutely packed. It was heaving. It was so good.
Right.
And then we're like, right, next on the list, guys, we tell this Italian band, we're going to London. Everyone's like, yeah, we're going to London. We end up playing this jam night that no one was at. And it was just pointless. And Tom, the bass player, I just remember this really funny night, sleeping in a van. Tom ate 4 kebabs. and you can imagine what that van smelled like in the morning. But that's kind of touring as you're growing up. You earn your stripes.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was hilarious. And we're like, London's not all that for doing original stuff because promoters don't care. If you don't sell enough tickets, you got to pay. And it's still like that now. Like my girlfriend is an artist, and I get to hear about that side of things. And I'm like, why is the art form the one that suffers?
Yeah.
When that's why people were going there, right?
Yeah.
So that's frustrating. And then we went off to Italy and we played these great shows, and it was about being in a band and being with your mates and playing mute. Like, why did you start?
This was with
guitar?
the original band that you went to
Yeah,
Italy with.
yeah.
Right?
This is like 2012. Before I'd even sort of thought about the freelance session thing. But like, why did you start playing guitar?
Yeah, well, why did I start playing guitar? I think, well, my dad was always a musician. When I was growing up, he started playing in bands when he was 15, and he's like 72 now, I think. So,
Oh, rocker! I love
and he's
it.
still playing guitar. Yeah,
So cool.
So I saw that, but I didn't do it because, like you, like what we were talking about before the podcast, like I was fully into football.
Yep.
Until 14, 15. 14, I started to have a bit of a wobble with it, and some guy turned up at school with a guitar, so I'd noticed that. And then
He looked cool, right?
He looked quite cool, yeah. He was kind of a straightforward guy. He was like a rugby player, so it didn't really fit him, sort of thing. It didn't really work. But he was a lovely guy, and when I started, we had a jam. But I was always like a big Michael Jackson fan growing up, and then I saw a video where it's "Given to Me" by Michael Jackson and Slash is on it. And Slash does a guitar solo where like electricity comes out of his fingers, and like in the crowd, all the women are reaching for him and stuff like that. And I was like, that.
And
I
that
wanna do
happens,
that.
right?
Yeah, of course.
It happens all the time.
Yeah. So yeah, electricity out your fingers, especially on the metal gigs for some of the dodgy wiring.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I saw that and I was like, right, Dad, show me that guitar solo. He was like, here's 3 chords, go away. And then eventually, kind of like, he kind of showed me a few chords, and then I went and picked it up myself. But yeah, and then it was like, this could be a thing that gets your attention, and then Let's Be Guns N' Roses, and all that sort of thing, and then just spending hours in sweaty, smelly rehearsal rooms as like a 16-year-old, like
The days that you don't notice that you smell.
Yeah, exactly. Tiniest bit of
balls.
like resin block sort of thing, smoking like huge joints and drinking too much and like just trying to just kind of losing control a bit and all that sort of thing. And I loved that. I was writing metal riffs and songs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that was starting off guitar with me, but I was like a bit jealous of people like who, like we see on the scene now, you see guys who've definitely been playing since they're 5 or 6, and it's just like the technique side of it's just so easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm always jealous of that, but at the same time, I kind of like they kind of came into it at that sort of.
Totally, and I think these things happen in your life for whatever reason, and had you not done it at that point, you might not have been inspired to carry on. Like you said about the football. The football was a huge thing for me, and like me and my dad, that was me and my dad when we were a kid. Like, I mean, I started playing drums at 10.
Yeah.
Because of Phil. I was saying from Inglorious, and I saw him play. It was I went to school, Swanmead, and he was playing drums next door to the girls' changing room.
Right.
So we went I mean, that's kind of irrelevant, right?
So it's not that relevant.
So we went. I had this drums playing, and I knew Phil, like we were in the same class.
What were you doing near the girls' changing rooms?
I was lost.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Lost. No, so I heard these drums. I was like, this is so cool.
Yeah.
I walked in. And I was like, I want to do that. And Phil was like at 10, was so good. And I played clarinet.
All right, okay.
Which was a great introduction to music. And my parents were so supportive. Like, my granddad is my hero when it comes to music. My great granddad was a pianist. My mum tinkled with stuff. And I went home and I was like, I really want to play the drums. So they got this black book. And they said, if you don't get any more than 10 crosses in this black book, you'll get a drum kit for Christmas.
Oh, wow.
And I think I got 9. You know?
Yeah, you gotta push it. You gotta push the limit.
I just made it. And I got this kit, and I didn't know what I was doing. I just played.
Yeah.
And then I hung around with Phil, and Phil got a guitar, and he could just play guitar.
Yeah.
I don't know how some people can. And he introduced me to Blink-182.
Right.
I think it was All the Small Things.
Yeah.
I was like, this is so cool.
Yeah.
And then so I saw Travis Barker.
Yeah.
So at this point, I get in, and I don't really listen to Travis now. I love what he does, but without Travis, I wouldn't have had the inspiration to shed drums every day.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't really come from a formal background.
No.
Like, I had a few lessons at 10.
Yeah.
Then the drum teacher stopped turning up for whatever reason. And that's, like, again, I'm sure we'll get onto in a bit, but my hate of teachers. Like, teach if you care.
Yeah.
Like, give something because you want to give it, not just because for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But, like, so he stopped coming, so then I just jammed with Phil and we started a band in year 6. And then at 15, I joined like a proper rock band, the guys in the 40s, and I learnt to play with them.
Yeah.
But I was inspired my whole teenage years because of people like Travis, Dave Grohl.
It's the perfect thing. Like, we can look back and kind of, some people sneer on that sort of stuff now, but I definitely at some points have done as well. But that's so important for getting young kids into music. Like, there's a guy there just smashing the shit out of the drums all over the place, playing some fucking punk rock, tattoos all over his arms and stuff like that, and just kind of like providing people, like kids with like, I want to do that. And I think that's really important. Like, I look at some kids that I grew up with and stuff and got in trouble and stuff like that, and I think like they maybe just didn't ever have something where they looked at it and said, I want to do that, or maybe the opportunity to actually do it, and it's so big. And yeah, that's way more inspiring than
seeing someone play with heart and soul. And like someone hitting it, because maybe people hate it when you hit the drums or play the guitar so hard.
Yeah.
But there's so much passion behind that. You can't argue with that.
Yeah.
And like, so when a kid sees that, or if I saw that, and that was exactly what it was. I saw Dave Grohl hit those drums.
Yeah.
So I couldn't help but hit those drums as a teenager. And I think that's like, I think one of the biggest things that anyone can do is inspire, right?
Yeah. The thing about playing like heavy music as well, and growing up doing that as well, a friend of mine up north always talks about this, and he says like, the thing is you can't teach, you can tell guys who've grown up playing heavier music, because when like when you're on a gig and you've got like a heavier tune that comes up, the guys that kind of maybe grew up doing kind of jazz or other kind of styles of music that didn't have that kind of heaviness to them, they find it hard to get that heavy sound, or to get to, yeah. And whether it's kind of just, And it's weird on a guitar, because on a guitar it doesn't really matter how hard you hit it, in a sense, once you got some distortion on it. But you can tell guys who didn't grow up doing that, and it makes a big difference. Agree.
And I'm sure the argument is the other way around. Like the guys who grew up hitting it, can they play with like dynamics that a jazz player can play with?
Yeah.
And I'm sure every player's different, right? And some can, some can't. And that's why I believe with music was the beautiful thing. It's like we all have attributes which are great, and we're all gonna have weaknesses. So like we're all in this together, and we can learn off each other. So like, I remember we've done a few gigs together, haven't we? Not a huge amount, but like you can tell we're kind of cut from the same cloth in terms of like you want to rock out and you want to have fun, and you're on stage kind of taking the piss.
Of course.
You're playing a pub and you're just laughing, and some of the best gigs I've had have been like with yourself, Dion.
He's monster.
Dion Rush, Sam Weston, where we just play like these sweaty bars. And we got one on Friday actually. And it's just fun. And they're tiny stages, and it's one thing I learned, like it didn't matter where I was playing. What actually mattered was who I was playing with. Of course, So it makes so much difference. And I've made some genuine best friends in London. Now I didn't know how London was going to go. And I guess you still don't know.
You turn up thinking it's like going to be this clicky weird thing, dog eat dog, and there is definitely that side of it. But once you, because I couldn't find a way into knowing where even the jams were when I turned up. So I spent a year or so, maybe a little bit more, kind of floating around with little bits of work that I had from people I kind of knew, and never even know where Ronnie Scott's was or anything like that. And then I met Sam. I did it on Facebook. I saw an audition for Rationale. It was and I went into the audition and I met Sam on it, and neither of us got it, but he said we got talking, and I was actually doing this is how kind of weirded out I was with it at the time, because I didn't know anybody in the kind of session world. I knew a couple of people who had some bands that did some work. I'd got to a point where I was like, for a while I'm gonna have to do something else, and I started first of all writing some music. I'm gonna like play acoustic open mic nights with my own songs, which was interesting. And then the other thing I did was some stand-up comedy, just to do something creative and like do something scary, like because I wanted to. That's
incredible. Also, I think you've got advantage being Northern, because Northerners are automatically funnier.
Oh, well,
I think anyway.
You might not have thought that if you come to some of the shows I did. But so that's when I met Sam, and then he was like, come to Ronnie's and come to Nat Palmer's jam that she had it down in Shoreditch at Smith's.
Right. I did go to it once.
Yeah, and that's where I first kind of met Joe Chiari and Mac and all the people who were doing all the work that we all know, you know. And it was great. It was like, and that's where I met Tim as well, and we kind of kicked off from there. Yeah, and then we just started going to loads of jams together, and then people thought he was my son.
Really?
No, that was always the joke. But and it was never clicky. It was never ever clicky.
It actually shows how small the industry is.
Yeah,
it's really small, and there's little pockets of it going on, and there will always be somebody I haven't met.
Yeah.
Or there's always a name that I know of, but we just haven't had a chance to meet, and then you bump into them at a festival, and I think that's the great thing about it as well. Like it's forever growing.
Yeah.
And whether that is scary to some or inspiring to others. Like whenever I see great players, and there's so many great players, and all my friends are great players, but like that inspires me.
Yeah.
So I've always looked at it in like, rather than shy away from that and be like, oh, I can't do that, or how do you do it? I'm just like, cool. Look, what can I take from it? What can I learn? I really like the way he's got his sound, or the way he really hits it, or he's got a pocket. Like one guy, for example, is Luke Harris, which I don't really know Luke very well. I've met him a couple of times. Yeah. But I saw him play at Chiro's. Yeah. And he just plays with like, he has this dynamic thing where his pocket is so amazing, but at any volume.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, and so instantly I was so inspired. Yeah. And it's just, again, we go back to talking about like maybe a jazz guy can not play as loud.
Luke Harris is the drummer's drummer of London. Like I always think, like I played with him at Chiro's once or twice, and just like I mean, some of the songs I didn't know because I think I got the gig. I was doing a podcast when I got one of the gigs actually, and I turned up and like Patrick's like, okay, let's do da 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 da. I'm like, what? Yeah. So it was. The gig was different. Like it was good in some ways, and in other ways a little bit like I don't know what's going on here.
Sometimes the best ways to learn them, right?
Exactly. But yeah, Luke and I'd been and watched him at Chiro's loads of times. He's just immense. But most of the drummers regard him as one of their favourites.
He's great. And I don't actually know Luke very well, but there are a lot of amazing players. Like in my household, like I live with 3 other musicians. So you got Natalie, who's a phenomenal singer.
Yeah.
You got Francois, who's 21.
Yeah, he's just got
beastly.
on the MDing for Pixie Lot and doing the Emily Sandé standing.
He's stepping for that. He's in
Sandé.
Brother Strut now.
Yeah. No, really, fucking hell!
Announced
Congratulations,
here.
bro.
Yeah, and he's 21 and he inspires me.
Yeah.
And that's crazy. And then I live with Ollie Sears.
Yeah.
Wicked drummer.
Oh, dude, yeah. I'm careful what I say. So Ollie's one of the Piano Works drummers.
Yep. I know what you're gonna say. Do you want me to finish it for you?
No. Yeah, you possibly. No, what I would say is
skip.
Yeah, skip. I sent him a message the other day because I watched him because they did a gig. They do a gig at Studio 88, which is the other Piano Works venue. And for anybody who doesn't know, Piano Works is it's a gig where all night it's audience requests every night of the week. So they have a pool of 60 or something musicians, and you get rotated in.
Wow.
So like Big Tim's on it as well, and Ollie's on it, and I'm on it, and Jason Tebble's on it.
Yep.
So you always, and then there's Lenny Brown, who's a fucking monster as well, and loads of amazing players. Like I did a podcast with a guy called Kaya, he's a singer, piano player, but he's an amazing showman because he come from doing The Lion King as well. So some great players on it. But I sent Ollie a message the other night just after I watched him because we were changing over. They did 2 shows in one night. So we went on at 12:30. And Ollie's band was finishing at 12:30, and we went on 12:30 till 3.
Wow, such a late spot.
Yeah, on a Friday night in Leicester Square, I was like, it's yeah. I sent him a message saying like, dude, your playing's just fucking crazy. And he's playing for Albert Lee, the legendary country good. I was saying like touch and feel and sound and just groove and awareness and all that. And he's an incredible singer as well.
And
like,
just what a lovely guy.
Yeah.
You know, and living with him, like yesterday, I'd woke up and I heard this pad going, which I sometimes go and practice and sometimes I don't. And I'm kind of at the stage at the moment where I haven't really had much chance to practice, but that's also a lame excuse. I'm also not practicing at the moment.
Yeah, you're allowed to.
Yeah. and I went downstairs and he got this new pad and that's inspiring to see. And he's like, I'll try this out. And he has these new drums and I have these kits and we talk about it. And like I've got 3 vintage kits that I geek out about and he loves it and he's got this great gear. So like that's really inspiring. And it's never been, for me, like it's never been about like what someone else doing. It's always been like, we're all in this together. Yeah. So like I'm part of the London music scene as everyone else is. Yeah. So I always have loved being around people who are great players. I used to live with Ed Broad. Yeah. Great drummer. Yeah. Like, fantastic.
Oh yeah. I've only ever done a gig with him where he played cajon. So I've actually not done a gig with him where he's been the drummer, and I'm looking forward to one day having that privilege.
Yeah. Well, I won't ever get that privilege because I won't get to play.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But just from like I know how Ed plays and I've seen him play, and like, he's just got a great. But like there's this endless amount of players like Ash is amazing.
I was just about to say Ash and Unco, and it's ridiculous how short a period of time he's actually been playing drums.
Like 10 years, but like serious badass pocket.
Yeah.
And then like, I actually went out for a beer with Ash and Oscar Golding. And in my opinion, Oscar is one of the best bass players I've ever heard. Yeah. And these guys are just my mates that I go to the pub with. Yeah. And sometimes we talk about music, sometimes we don't. But like, these are just interesting guys. Yeah. The list is endless.
I like watching Jules Holland when you start to see your mates. It's like the other day there was Plan B was on it, and I saw Dana Fisher playing the bass player. Yeah, and he's like what 17, 18.
And you got like Matty on drums.
Ridiculous. Yeah, so I don't know him. But
so
then
Matty, again, like we're talking about musicians who are like, what's he, 21? I don't know.
I don't know. What's his second name?
Brown.
Right, okay.
I think he's on that gig. A serious player.
Yeah.
And I remember when Matty won Young Drummer of the Year.
Right.
Like he can obviously play. He's sick. He's really good. But like I said, there's endless amount of players.
Yeah. On that Plan B one, I did a gig then like 2 days later with Glenn Callahan, and he's on that gig. He's on the Plan B. I was like, dude, I watched you on Jules Holland like a couple of nights ago. Yeah, it's on that.
Yeah, Glenn's great as well. Great guy.
Yeah, and I'd keep hearing his name, and then we finally get to meet him, and he was sound.
Yeah, it's endless. So like the amount of great musicians, and I think actually like had I known what it was like before I'd come here, maybe I would have been scared.
Yeah.
But then I think it's about finding your identity, like knowing what you do, doing it well, like, and it goes without saying, like the simple stuff of like being on time, being easy to work with, learning stuff like that. That goes without saying. And I think if you don't know that, then you're not quite ready to come here. But if you got that, like,
oh yeah, when I was as well up north, I was it's breath fresh air coming down here because everything's so far apart in the north that there was work, but because of the time that I came into the world of doing functions or whatever it was, I was always this particular one guy's dep. And then I ended up in the band that he used to be in because he went on to do something else. And it was just like, where's this ever going to go? And you don't get exposure to seeing other players and stuff like that. The thing that opened my eyes was come to the jam nights and like seeing all the guitar players. And part of me is like, there's that kind of, fucking hell, he's just done that. I can't have him being able to do that and me not being able to do it. So go and learn that or whatever. Or that's a good idea. Meeting people and friends and stuff like that. Yeah, it's just incredible, and I would never have got that out of town, sort of thing.
Totally.
What I was going to ask you, what's the name of the artist that you're playing for at the moment? And it's this is well, you tell me the story.
Which one?
Wait, okay, which one? Here we go. So you're playing for a number of people at the moment. So what's your main gig? Ari. Ari's
one of them.
Yeah.
No,
so
what?
Tell me about Ari's gig first.
Okay, her project.
What's the name of her? What's her artist
She's
name?
called Ariana and The Rose.
Ariana and The Rose, yeah.
I played on her record. I want to say 2014.
Yeah.
And then ended up touring with her end of that year, supporting Foxes, and then we've done recordings and tours since then.
Yeah.
Basically, that's the short version of Ari's gig. She's wicked. She does this thing, Light in Space, and
what sort of style of music is it? I haven't actually heard it.
Oh god, I mean, if she hears this and I get this wrong, I get in trouble, right?
Because this is your missus as well now, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. 80s synth pop, I'm gonna say.
80s synth pop, okay.
So she's really cool. But like, I play with loads of different artists, and I've always been fortunate that like one of my.
No, that's my.
We've got a phone going.
Can't believe I left it on.
It's your podcast as well, and you should.
I know
this.
It's ridiculous, isn't it? And the thing is, I can't. It's over there. I can't switch it off now.
I mean, all right, I'll keep going.
Yeah. So this will be the edit. Or
you can edit.
I might edit. Oh no! There we go. That's long enough for us to do, and also watch me squirm on camera.
And one of the first artists I worked with was Joseph Salvat, who's wicked, great songwriter. So that started the end of 2013. I started working with him, and I probably worked with him for 2.5-3 years consistently. But then it was like, dare I say it, the perfect gig where like it was busy, but I would still come back and I'd be able to do the odd function, and you'd like keep that going, and I'd be able to do a bit of the odd studio stuff. And I saw Joseph, we went for dinner the other week actually. He came to another show I was playing, and hopefully he's gonna be back, I'd imagine next year, next record.
Right,
I'm excited about that. So Joseph's one I work with a lot. Leah Dove just finished doing a tour with. Right. She's a Chinese artist.
Yeah.
She's huge in China.
Yeah.
Not really that well known in the Western world.
Right.
We just did a UK
tour. You
don't
need to be if you're big in China.
Yeah, exactly. But they're trying to break over, and we did an American tour last year.
Yeah.
I did the Illusionist theatre tour.
What's that? That's so the Illusionist is that a TV program or a film?
It was, I believe, it was on like Britain's Got Talent or America's Got Talent,
right? Okay.
And then producers have made it into a theatre show where it's magicians or illusionists.
Oh, amazing! Right, okay.
Like anything from a guy in a water tank, escaping.
Right. So what sort of thing are you like? Are you doing kind of stabs, or are you doing?
We're like playing songs that are atmospheric, or like they're big. I don't really know how to describe it, but they're big songs,
right?
And you play over someone doing a trick, and sometimes it's light.
A little bit like a kind of Cirque du Soleil vibe.
Exactly
so,
that.
Right, okay.
Exactly that. Different producers, I think.
Yeah.
That was really cool. So before me, that was Dan Bingham who was doing that, wicked drummer, and then Justin Shaw was doing it, and then Justin couldn't do it all, so I then took over from Justin. Justin's a wicked drummer on Motown, great friend of mine as well.
Yes.
So I was doing that, and then I do Right Said Fred.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
Oh yeah, how's that going? I heard about that. I bet that's a lot of fun, man. I bet that's
so much fun, and like Matt Bramall is the MD on that now.
Right. Yeah.
You got like Ryan Burnett on guitar, and Kat Deal and Svetlana on bass.
Oh, Kat Deal, right? Okay. Kat's one of the people I've done when I stood in for Tom Gledhill at Ronnie's. She was on it.
Yeah.
And so I've met her a couple of times on that, but never had a chat with her outside.
She's like crazy mad, but really cool.
She's a sax player as well as a backing vocalist.
Yeah, great vocalist and sax player. So yeah, I get to work with great players there. Yeah. And then there's Mira Fury, and then there's a few Andy Brown this year.
Smashing it.
So it's really cool, but like, it was funny, I was saying to do you know what, I think, like anything in this world, like when I moved here, you want something, you get it, and then you want a little bit more.
Yeah.
So like, I am so fortunate to be working with all these great different artists, and I'm really challenging myself all the time. But I also remember the time when I was with Joseph, and that was quite solid.
Yeah.
I wouldn't dare say you relax, but it's somewhat less stressful. You're not having to learn sets all the time. But I'm sure if you then end up doing so much, you then risk not being around, and the people are always busy.
Yes, so
it's that balance. But then, and in between, I do a lot of studio, and I do a lot of functions. Yeah. Like, I'm not a typical working musician like you are and the next person,
Yeah. But I mean, every time I see anything, it's easy when you're looking at social media and stuff like that, but you're out and about and around the world or like quite a lot. And one of the things I was going to ask you, how difficult is it to balance the artist work with B, kind of functions and kind of stuff that you do when the artist work not on and stuff in town, because that's quite hard to keep going, and then C, your personal life as well, because those three things are, even two of those things are difficult to manage, never mind three, and especially if you're successful in all areas as well, man. Like.
Massively. I guess like the personal life, I think we learn as we go along, right? And like trying to,
there's a temptation to kind of minimize that though, isn't there? Because you work and you're like, well, I'm late 20s, early 30s, I need to smash it now, and it's that I think is dangerous.
But the danger is you don't ever stop thinking that.
Yeah.
So perspective changes, like,
and something maybe doesn't work out further down the line, and then you're left with no support thing, no friends, because you just kind of.
My really good friend Chris Nagel, again, great drummer. He said to me, like, you make those decisions at that time. You make the best decision.
Yeah.
So I don't think you should ever look back and go, oh, I wish I'd done that, or had I done this?
Yeah.
Because at that moment, you went, I want to do this.
Yeah.
Or I want to approach it like this. Yeah. And I think you have to stand by that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's difficult. Like the artist singing to the function world. Like, okay, so this is my first year being in a function band, which you've been depping for. Riptide.
Oh yeah.
But I haven't been on them because I've been depping.
That's the one with
Dane.
Yeah, he texted me the other day. Yeah. That's cool as well because they're a bit rockier.
It's rocky
with the two guitars,
and it's chilled. And it's fun.
Yeah.
So,
and he's somebody I need to get on the podcast as well, Dane, because he is
great
songwriting and all that.
I was going to suggest you actually get Dane. He's really really good and really
good
nice
car
guy.
journey with him, and he was. It was a really nice chat. Actually, it was really interesting because it's a world that a lot of us working musicians are doing function work and bits of artist stuff and all that. The long-term lucrative plan for most people, the obvious one is to go towards songwriting because that's something you can do at home, have a personal life, and create actual money for yourself for the future and stuff like that. But then I also saw how hard he works, and then a part of me is like, also like, oh, sure.
And does he work that hard because he really wants it? I guess I think we're all in control of the balance because, I mean, my perspective, my life changed quite dramatically, I guess, the last 6-12 months in terms of like what I want to do, what I want to achieve. Now I still have big dreams.
Yeah.
The artist thing, like balancing that, is like, how do you dep out a show that you don't want to let them down, but you have to make a choice?
Yeah.
So I guess the questions go through my head of like, who's going to understand?
Yeah.
I mean, I always get great drummers on. Like recently, I've used Sam Edwards a bit. Sick drummer, like so good.
Sam Edwards. I don't know if I know Sam.
No,
I might have bumped into him at jam nights. Actually.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, very busy guy, but when I've got someone like him to go in depth for me, you're like, well, this show's going to be fine because the show is bigger than the musician, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I'm never scared to put someone in who I believe is wicked. So like, there's that balance of trying to depth those and get that decision right. And I've got friends who've made the wrong decisions, and I have no doubt that I'll make a wrong decision in the future. But I've learnt from the guys who've been around a lot longer. And one of the guys said, you'll never keep everyone happy. Oh, yeah. It's not possible. So you try and make the best career moves. But the function thing, like, really, like, I'm in a very, in a great band where they understand I can dep whenever, dare I say it. So that's always there.
Yeah.
It's just as long as I'm organised and get good guys in,
Yeah.
that gig's there. So when I finish touring, I come back and there's that.
That's the move that you have to have sorted out, I think.
You have to be clever with that. So that's my balance there.
Yeah.
And then my balance of personal life is, again, you try and my girlfriend is also driven and is an artist and understands. And
see, that's interesting because your missus is in the same world. So like, here's a problem that I have, and I'm sure a lot of people have, is you finish a gig like I did, the one at 3:00. That means I'm going to bed till 4:30 at least, because you're going to have 20 minutes when you get in, and you packed up and all that sort of thing. If the next day is a Saturday morning, and that might be the only kind of slot that you get to see your missus, for instance, you then have to get up at 9 or 10, otherwise you miss the whole day with them, and then you got to do that, but then you're going to do a gig that night as well, and
so then you get grumpy.
But by the time you get to Sunday, you're like just a mess. And then when you're busy midweek and all that sort of thing, it's a nightmare, and it can be really kind of difficult. I think that's probably something that actually works in your favour as well, because you don't.
It probably does.
My missus works the 9 to 5 sort of thing, so that if I want to see her, I just have to get up, and you have to be all right with 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah, totally. And but isn't that the commitment or the compromise you make in a relationship or in anything like that? Is that if you want to see her, it doesn't become such an effort, right?
Yeah. I think this is one of the thing about like when I've in the past been single and stuff, that's when the networking and going out and seeing people becomes really easy. It's like I get to a point now at the moment where balancing work and the personal life and trying to like get to an age where you're thinking about kind of the future and all that sort of thing. Trying to get out to see everybody is then difficult, and I have to really make myself do it, because it's always the thing that's easiest to spoon off. Oh, I don't need to play football this week. I need to sort this bit of admin out. It's like, nah, leave it. Go and see people.
Isn't it good to like take some time for yourself?
Yeah. It's important. Yeah.
I really do think that, and I'd spent the last 4.5 years, like when I first moved to London, of just work, wouldn't step away from it, wouldn't say no to anything.
Yeah.
Which is also, I think, a way, in my opinion, I had to do it. But I've also got to the point now where I'm like, okay, I deserve a breather every now and again. Like I deserve to take a few days off, or which I was scared to do, or why can't I go out with my mates and just chill and worry about that invoicing tomorrow morning? Or like there's nothing.
I've done it with the World Cup. I've been like, normally I'm doing all sorts of things. Like I'd probably do more podcasts or do some writing or some recording or some jamming with some of the lads or something like that, and or planning some future project or something like that. But recently, what I've done is I'm going to watch this World Cup as much as I can. I'm going to do the minimal amount of any bullshit, and then I'm going to go and do my gig in the evening if I've got one, and that's it.
And we're missing the game right now, aren't we?
Oh yeah, the Germany game. Yeah. Oh shit. Yeah. Mind you, I don't think there's very much danger. I've got the wall chart here. My missus was laughing at me for the wall chart. I said, you've got to have the wall chart.
Well, this is my first World Cup that I've hardly watched it.
Right, this is the first one. Oh, so we're missing the Korea versus Germany and Mexico versus Sweden.
Mexico looked great this year.
So the thing here is that Sweden, if they beat Mexico, maybe they knock Germany out, something like that. I don't know. I've been sure. fully into it though, and it's been a good one as well. Like normally I watch the England matches and go, can't be bothered anymore. But just like going out, having a beer, or sitting in here watching it, and just taking that time to do nothing and to not be thinking.
Well, because I think as well, like we're self-employed, we're so driven, and there's an element of the pressure of you have to work to earn, and being London's an expensive city. Like I'm sure, like all the music hubs in the world, like your LA's, your Nashville, New York's, like you've always got that pressure. But like, I think as well, like take some time. This is just my opinion, but like take some time for yourself, because then you don't mind. You can go like full steam ahead and you do the work. Take a breather. That's where I've got to. But that was the first time in my life. The first time being a musician. And I did that, and I still have a problem saying no sometimes. This is
an important thing I think to talk about, because I think I get this, and I feel really guilty about this, because I sometimes think that I'm the only one, and I might be one of the only ones, but it happens around this time of year as well, when it just starts to get crazy busy, and you're doing 4, 5, 6 a week or something, or you do a trot of like 2 weeks non-stop or something, and you're like a zombie. But I get to the point where, and this might not be, it's probably not true for everybody, when I went to LA with Jason Tebble, who runs this music workshop thing. And I did
Jason's
that
great.
last year, yeah. And when we were out there, just before we went out there, and as we were out there, I like totally fell out of anything to do with music. And it's kind of happened around the same time this year as well. Like, get to a point where I just have 2 or 3 weeks where I'm like, I don't want to see a guitar. If I'm not on stage, I don't want to have anything to do with it.
Totally.
I get like kind of totally washed out with it, and it's probably lack of sleep and doing too much work like that. But then I'll look on social media and I'll see people posting videos of them playing, or somebody, or I'll see another guitar player or something like that playing, and then I'll be like, I hate that they love it so much at this point when I hate it. Like,
Well, they're going for the same stage, right?
I hope so. I think probably a lot of people do, but they just don't want to talk about it, probably, because it's a little bit like on the depression side. Everyone kind of goes, I don't want to be that person talking about that. But I think you can do your head in with it, and that's why it's important to take those times and those breaks.
But right now, I'm lacking a bit of inspiration.
Yeah.
I'm not practicing. Like, again, my excuse was I'm too busy to practice at the moment, which is somewhat true. But actually, if I really wanted to find an hour, I could find an hour. Like, you just get up earlier or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I took a week last week and I was in New York, and I didn't really think about work. I replied to a few emails because I think you kind of need to. You can't just ignore certain stuff. But I was like, I'm taking a break for 6 days. Yeah. I'm going away and I'm going to chill, and then I'll go back to it.
And that's what happens. Something happens where you give yourself that time, and you come back to it, and you're like, oh fuck, I'm back.
Yeah.
I'm back in the room, and then it's like learning more licks or doing more creative stuff than you've ever done before, or working harder on the behind the scenes stuff with the projects. And I think so. I think that's what I needed. Yeah. Anyway, but because I get to a point where I can fucking get some of those guitars and pick them up and almost smash the wall with them.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, like I said, I'm not really practicing at the moment, which is my own fault, I guess, and I'm feeling slightly uninspired. But then I'm going to a gig. I'm playing a gig tonight, and I'm kind of looking forward to it. It's with people I know and I like playing with, and it's straightforward. You go and do the gig, you go home, and it's nice and easy tonight. And
they're the best gigs because you don't have the stress of any of the other pressures. You're actually working on, we're going to play some music and it's going to be nice.
Yeah, and I literally just need sticks.
Yeah,
everything's there.
Yeah. Oh wow.
So you do get to the point as well, I think, when you've done enough gigs, you go, do you know what? If I can get away with it, I'm not going to have to bring anything. I can just turn up with sticks.
Oh, dude, I've been looking at them fly rigs that you can get as a guitar player. They're like I have the Helix, which is like a big kind of spaceship pedal board. But the good thing about that is you can turn it without an amp and plug straight into a PA, and it sounds like a Kemper sort of thing.
Amazing.
But there's one that's done by this company called Tech 21, and it's literally like that sort of big.
Wow.
It's like a large pencil case size, and it's by Sans amp as well, so it's got like a preamp.
Don't you miss that bit of air though on stage?
Yes, of course you do.
It's like when a bass player goes, I'm just gonna DI from whatever and not have an amp. Like, I want to feel it.
Yeah, of course, yeah. But then again, sometimes you do gigs where it's in-ears and you don't get to feel it anyway. And if you're having to traipse through the underground or the tube at like rush hour or whatever like that, I'm looking at that and it's 200 quid, and I'm thinking, that's a lot lighter than the...
This is what happens, right? I remember, right, my first, let's say my first proper gig in London, but one of my first gigs with Joseph. And they're like, right, we're going to meet at the Joint, King's Cross. Turn up, we're going to Ireland to play. I think the show was called Other Voices, which is this wicked show in Ireland. And I was really excited, and I had like my suitcase full of, I think I had a cymbal bag on my back, which was about 20 kilograms. And in my suitcase, I think there was like obviously a bit of clothing, and then there was, I think, a DTX, so like the SPDS thing, a stand for that. And some of it was like 30 kilograms.
Right.
And then I had a rucksack clothes.
Right.
I just had all these bits I had to take for the gig. Yeah. Firstly, no experience to know that we could probably fly that this way, and I could not had to take that and all these kind of things. And I had to go on rush hour. Firstly, people hated me on top of a suitcase, a single bag, and a rucksack.
You're an obstacle, yeah.
And I am caked in sweat.
Yeah,
because it's a hot summer's day like today.
I'm
on the tube, and I turned up, and I'd never met Joseph. I'd done a rehearsal with Brendan, and I turned up, so I'd only met Brendan, never met Joseph. Turned up, they're waiting in the cab. I'm like 10 minutes late because I couldn't wheel this 30 kilogram bag. I'm not even joking, I remember weighing it at the airport, and I was just caked in sweat, and I was like, hey, I'm Jonny.
What an impression.
Unfortunately for you, I'm your drummer. You know, but you learn these things. From now on, you go,
Yeah.
I mean, I drove to you today,
Yeah.
partly because I can't be bothered to catch a tube in this heat.
Oh, dude, yeah.
It changes you.
Yeah,
you
mate.
spend a bit more money.
I'm going to go and get the aircon fixed in her car today because it's. I've got to do a long journey to Exeter on Saturday.
Yeah.
And her
car's my neck of the woods, actually.
Right. Okay. Her car's diesel, so it's going to be way cheaper on petrol. My car's petrol, but it's got air conditioning. His is diesel, but it hasn't, so we're going to get some.
You take the one with the aircon, right?
Well, yeah, but we're going to get the aircon fixed on hers, and then get the cheap diesel. It's off the aircon.
Yeah.
And jobs are good then. But yeah, no, I mean, I going on tubes to gig in Central London, I always drive if I can.
Yeah. I mean, as a drummer, often I have to, but I will make that choice to drive. I just prefer it. But then, you know, there's an extra cost of probably parking and those things. But
these are the experience things that you do pick up, because we've all done that thing of turning up to a gig in the summer where you just wet through and you're like, what am I doing?
It's not good for anybody.
No, it's not good.
And it's fine being wet after the gig. Being wet before the gig's no
exactly.
But you just make these choices, and like you learn from these. I mean, I've done, I'm sure, some hilarious things in my time, but you go, I'm not doing that again. And you just make these choices that you know, when people say, the older guys always used to say, you know, you can't be experienced. Like, one of my favourite all-time bass players is a guy called Billy, and he was the bass player at this hotel in Criggs St Thomas in Somerset, where I started depping, and solid as a rock. But I just used to learn so much from him. He used to inspire me. It still inspires me to this day, and we speak every now and again. And he'd just say things like, simple, solid, steady, and you'll work. Or he'd be like, he'd be in the mic, Jonny, you're speeding up, like, and I just learned from him. And I love being around those kind of people. And like, he's so right. Like, you can't experience, like, you can't teach that. And just from the simple decisions you make, or like how I prep myself for a gig, or how I approach, especially festivals. Classic festival 2 weeks ago with Right Said Fred, and it's a shitstorm. Nothing's working, or it's not in the right channels. And I'm playing this gig, and I hadn't played with them for a few weeks. I had to get cover on a show. And I was playing to like click, and like I was playing to a band in a bubble 2 miles away. It was the worst sound I'd ever heard. But you just have to deal with it. But like, I do enough things to prep myself to know like what's going on. I might even go like on my set list, that's how it starts. It starts with keys for 8 bars. Or just to remind myself, cool, because you're going like, next song, bang, terrible sound. I just glance down, like, you just make these little choices, or like even with your gear, this gear is going to work best, or this is more robust for someone chucking it in the van. Oh,
dude, I look at guys with pedal boards that are like got wires and stuff and patch cables and stuff going on. I just remember gigs in the past where there'd be one every so often. It'll always be the most important gig as well, and something doesn't work, or you just do it, and you're like, fuck, which one is it?
So are you the guy that carries 10 spare patch leads, or are you the guy that tries out your gear the night before? Now, we all know we can get a bit complacent, right? So are you that guy, or are you the guy that turns up?
Or you get a Helix and you don't have any wires.
Well, exactly. but you do get to that point, you go, you know, I think you trust your gear and you know what you've got, and you know, it's where you invest your money, right? And everyone always says, like, the best place to invest is to invest in yourself. And whether that's gear or practice or lessons or whatever that might be.
Yeah, when I do the piano works, the sound guys come up to me, and when I turn up with the Helix, I've used it through the amp, but I've used it direct as well, and they're like, thank you.
Really?
Yeah, because they just, like, everybody's got their own wacky versions of what sound sounds are like, and not to knock any of the guys at the piano works, but there's some guys who play more country stuff, and there's some guys who have a more kind of, and the amps are quite aggressive sounding as well, whereas what I tend to do is turn up and make everything as mellow and flat as possible, and then my pedals are all pretty subtle, and then there's some like cool special effects, like a whammy pedal, like or some stuff. Exactly. or some like
a whammy bar that's
speaker
in the pedal, so you don't have one, you just
exactly. And it makes a difference, but that's whole pro experience of like, this will be fun on the gig. And I think that's another thing that people forget about gigs as well. It's like, I learned this from watching Ari up north, Ari Rannis, who was the guy I was depping for a lot, and then Mac down here, Mac Douglas as well. Like, funny is as good as technical and stuff. Like, putting just daft daft riffs in, or it's a guitar solo, and like a lot of guitar players would go, right, so I'm going to show my shredding chops, and to play like Parisian walkways over like I Will Survive or something like that. And that's the thing, like
having fun with it, and you again, I guess experience tells you when it's the right and wrong place to do that.
Yeah.
But like, I'm all up for having fun with guys. But like you said, that experience has taught you to what you can and can't do, and I think the only way you can do this, you go out and play, and you watch guys do it, and you learn, and you make mistakes, right? Yeah,
and also experience of how to blag something that's going totally wrong, and to make it look like nothing's.
Mate, I've got the best train wreck story ever.
Oh yeah.
And sometimes we're just all involved in a train wreck.
Yeah. Oh yeah, dude. Even for professionals, it happens.
So I was about 21, and it's not to say that hasn't happened since, but I was 21. I was depping at Criggs St Thomas that I'd mentioned earlier with Billy, and it was sight reading. And there's a point, now I would say like to think that I'm a strong sight reader, but at this point, 21, I can read. But until you sight read, like, you're really learning. And they're like, right, Johnny, we're going back on, we're doing this pad. I'm like, what do you mean this pad? You've not sent me this pad. So I put this pad up, and everyone who knows me knows at this point I'm okay, because it goes status quo, rocking all over the world. I'm like, I've got this. What I didn't think about whilst reading it is that it's a segue to a completely different song at a completely different tempo.
Oh no.
I don't know this at this point. So we're playing rocking all over the world, and like, I know this, and might as well be spinning my sticks.
Yeah.
And then they shouted, the singer's wearing, and it's all a bit cheesy, like legs up in the air kind of thing, and they shouted drum solo. What it actually was a tempo drop from probably about 30, 40 BPM. I mean, that's already disaster waiting to happen.
Yeah.
And when they mean drum solo, they meant like someone go rocking all over, and they go drum solo. I'm like, yeah. So I just goes beep beep, and I just went cymbals. I literally just cymbals, lost the click, lost the time, and Billy just went 2, 3, 4, we're back in.
Oh, dude, but there you go. That's it. You dealt with it.
But worst drum solo ever.
Oh, some would argue the best.
Exactly. But those OAPs must have been like, this guy needs to practice.
The old people can be the worst. I remember doing a gig. It was on Christmas Day with Anna Yashner in my acoustic duo, where we got paid and we quoted them silly money, thinking that they weren't going to pay us, and they did. So it turned up not knowing what this gig is at this hotel on Christmas Day. And it's just Blue Rinse, like it's just all the old people. It's a saga holiday basically.
So good
in Bristol.
You must have been killing it there, man.
We were just like, this Bruno Mars track. If it's going to cut it today, so we get 2 songs in, and because they're old and they just don't give a fuck, they just will outright talk to you and stop you. Actually, we was hoping you could put a foxtrot in for us.
Yep.
And so I'm saying to Anna, like, foxtrot. She goes, we can do Moon Dance as a foxtrot. And I was like, oh, whatever the song was.
And you'll go, what's a foxtrot?
Yeah, I know, like, I've no idea.
I play metal.
And so, yeah, exactly. She goes, oh, it's like this. It's like whatever. It was the rhythm. And she sings it to me. I'm like, right, okay, we can do this, yeah. So I'm playing it. And this old lady's dancing with this old bloke. And they look like, there's a guy passed out on the sofa. Like, they've just had a Christmas dinner. Like, there's no reason for us to be there, especially for the money that they're paying. And she shouts, this woman is still shouting out and directing me on tempo as I'm playing. But
this is because they grew up dancing these things.
They know the tempos, yeah.
They do.
And I was sweating. There's like 4 or 5 old couples in front of me. That's all there is. And I'm like, this is the gnarliest gig I've ever been on.
And they're tough, and you learn so much. And yeah, I mean, that sight reading gig stuff, I learned a lot because, that
scare a lot of people, especially guitar players.
Yeah, it's scary. But, I've been involved in some hilarious things, some training. I mean, one of the funniest things I ever did was, as we know, some TV shows are mime.
Yeah.
And we did a lot of French stuff with Joseph Salvat. Like, his record was like gold or platinum over there. And we did so much. And it was this really weird TV/radio thing in an arena. I think it was in Marseille at 6 a.m. Or we got there at 6 a.m. We were playing at like 8 a.m. I mean, how they fill an arena at 8 a.m. I will never know. But they did. And it was crazy people.
Sounds French.
Yeah, often it's a very peculiar way. And so they go, right, you guys are next, got your packs in, we're miming. And they've got the band. So myself, Johnny Coote, Dan McElvenny.
Monster.
Johnny Coote, incredible keys player and bass player and plays everything. But as a keys player, phenomenal. Anyway, we play this tiny, it's not even a stage, but you've got a drum kit, a bass and guitar. And they go, right, you're on. Someone had pressed play as we're walking on. The drums start, I'm not even at the kit. I'm walking on and start running because the drums are going and I'm like, I run on, but I don't know what happened. I got the giggles.
Oh no!
And you know when you get the giggles, and I was literally.
And this is on TV.
On TV, and by the way, anyone watching, I'm also an ultimate professional.
Oh, he's a total professional, but yeah, it goes wrong sometimes.
When you're giggling, you're giggling.
Yeah.
And I literally could not stop. And I look at Dan, and he sees me giggling. He starts giggling. JC sees us giggling. We're all giggling.
Corpse each other. Yeah.
And also at this point, we're all looking down because we just can't stop laughing. But also, what's happening is there's this massive SpongeBob SquarePants dancing at 8 a.m.
It sounds like a bad trip.
Like SpongeBob, just get on your bike, mate. No, jog on. What you doing? And there's this like cleaning guy mopping the stage. Well, Joseph's kind of dancing around him. This is the craziest thing ever.
Whoa.
We're all laughing. The track started before we got there. We're giggling. The song finishes. I just had to get off that stage.
Oh my goodness!
You kind of had to be there, but it was hilarious.
One of the worst gigs I ever did, and there was definitely nothing funny about it. But it's one of those where cold sweats and like instant flu. Like sometimes a gig can be so bad. I've heard other people say this. Like it gave me flu on stage.
What, watching you?
No, yeah, exactly.
You're playing, someone's like, I got the flu.
Yeah,
it's so bad.
Dude, that was so bad. It gave me the flu. No, my own experience of being on the stage. It was just some rich person's party in Glasgow. It was at Glasgow Opera House, and it was a rockabilly thing. And it was when I'd first started doing rockabilly, and we all know rockabilly bands. It's basically karaoke with a live band. We've all done it in London and stuff. But there's a main company that's based in Yorkshire that does it, Johnny Short, and I was only a dep on it, so it's 200 songs to learn. I'd charted most of them out, all of them out pretty much. And at that point, I was using this book to flip through them before the start of the song. Can you imagine how stressful that is?
You paid like 50p a song, basically.
Yeah, exactly. It's ridiculous. And to do it as a dep, it's like I learned a lot from doing it, but monetarily, I should have just said no to that. It's daft. But I do it now, and it's like the good lads and everything. I like to join in with it because it's a good laugh. But that particular gig, the bass player on that, Johnny Short, started a song, and you never had enough time to properly find the song. You had to be like thinking about it at the end of the last song.
Yeah.
And he said, he looks over and he shouts, "Believer." And I'm like, for the song, I'm like, right, okay. Who by? And he goes, The Monkees. And of course, there's two Monkey songs that's got Believer in. There's Daydream Believer and I'm a Believer.
Oh no, this is so good.
I'm already nervous because it's one of my first rockabilly gigs. And
you must have killed that room with that song choice.
Oh, mate, dude. Yeah, exactly.
Because he definitely meant the Monkees, didn't he?
Yeah, they're both by the Monkees. So I'm a Believer and Daydream Believer.
Right, but it's so different.
Yeah. So I get the wrong one. He starts it, and I'm like, and it's just drums, bass, and guitar. So it's massively reliant on guitar. There's no keyboards, no other harmony instrument. So all I'm hearing from him is drums and bass. Not great sound on stage. And I'm playing, and it's totally not the same song that I'm playing. I know that much. And I look across at him, and I'm looking at it, and I felt like I was tripping or something because I'm looking at his bass, and I'm like, I don't understand what's happening on his bass at all. And he's looking at his hand like as if he's showing me what the notes are.
Yeah.
I'm like,
I love it when guitarists do that. They go like, check it.
And because it's totally the wrong song, and I'm not even thinking about the other one. I think it was I'm a Believer, but I'm thinking Daydream Believer. So the rhythm's wrong, the bass doesn't make any sense to me, and then it's a 5-string bass as well. So I'm looking at it, and in that moment I just felt like all the water just pour out of my head, and I just went instantly into I did end up with flu on the way back from that gig.
End up with flu.
So I just kind of like like mimed along with it as if there was anything else playing. But
that's the thing, as a guitarist, you can hide.
Yeah, not on that gig though, because it's like
of course.
Otherwise just bass and drums.
But you can just do that, just not really do anything.
As a drummer, no, you can't hide it all. No,
I've always found as a drummer, you ain't hiding.
Oh yeah, it's fucked. Yeah,
and like if there's a bad ending, you're gonna hear what the drummer does as an ending.
Yeah,
you can just pull off as a guitarist.
Oh yeah, dude, that's my.
I'm not taking anything
again, experience. You're not sure what's going on with the drummer's ending. Just back away.
Yeah, exactly. But you can't as a drummer.
Yeah,
that's hilarious.
Back away and fiddle with the amp a bit. Yeah.
But it's like, I feel like these experiences, one, teach you a lot, and you laugh at them.
Oh,
like,
totally. Yeah.
I will always. There's some things that I will laugh at and go, God, that was somewhat a train wreck. But I learned so much, and I was young, and you know what, there will be times in our lives going forward that there will be moments.
Oh yeah.
But we're human.
Yeah,
we make
dude,
mistakes.
yeah, and it's live music. That's the whole point of it. One of the worst ones that happened to me recently was that. Oh shit! It's 4:01. Your fucking car. What's the time's it until?
Not till then. Should I put some more on?
Yeah. Do you want to put another 10 minutes on it or something like that?
Can we edit this or we just?
Yeah, we can.
No, that's cool.
Yeah.
Let me see. God, it's hot there as well.
Dude, this flat is warm as.
Do you know what's going to happen?
Midsummer in Hackney Central. What's going to happen?
Is I'm going to put more time on. I've already got a ticket.
No.
We'll try it. It'll be fine.
You were 58, weren't you? That's what time?
So technically, isn't it like 10 minutes they can?
5. But that means if it's not, the parking guy would have had to turn up at 54 and it'd be fine.
That's the one. Put that around.
It's the hazards of parking in Hackney Central. By the way, just take a moment to appreciate this amazing trim that Mr. Jonny Brister has given me today on the beard. I don't know if you can see it from over there. I'll come a bit closer. Ah, this guy's got skills. Don't worry, mate. Take your time.
Well, no, I have to be careful because I'm a gig tonight.
Yes, mate, dude. Yeah. We can start wrapping up anytime you want.
10 minutes or so?
Yeah, do that. Yeah. Yeah. Sounds perfect.
Cool, back in the room.
And he's
Back in the room.
back in the room. Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Dude, no. Parking around here is a nightmare.
I may have a parking fine. We'll find out.
No,
we'll be okay.
Yeah, there's slack round here, I reckon, the park. I've got nothing to base that on, but I got a parking ticket the other day doing a gig with Sam Weston where we...
Sam's fault.
Yeah, we both got one. It's one of those private companies, and it was like a park arc right next to the restaurant, and totally looks like it's the restaurant's car park. So we just got out of cars and went, let's go and get a pizza here. And then, let's get a pizza here at this pizzeria. And...
Pizzeria?
Yeah.
It's funny, like some of my friends really pick up on my accent. Like occasionally I don't give it off, but there's certain things I say that I'm sure people didn't know I was from Somerset. But like when you say things like pizzeria,
yeah. Some people confuse me with Dan Francis Owen's accent as well, and I'm like, dude, I'm nothing. That my accent's nothing like that. Rotherham, and the weird.
Dan's Wigan.
Yeah, kind of Manchester way. The weird thing about those northern accents is that you can be in the next town and be totally different. So Sheffield's actually really different to Rotherham. Okay. People in Rotherham call people from Sheffield D-Dars.
Right,
totally like D and that and D and this and all that.
Really?
Yeah, it's totally different, whereas the Rotherham thing's a bit more lowbrow, I suppose. I don't know, it's more kind of guttural or something like that. But yeah, so people confusing mine with Dan's is ridiculous because he's a proper Mancunian accent, isn't it? You know? Although he might say then to me, it's like, well, it's a Wigan accent. Maybe I just don't got the ear to discern it.
Yeah.
But yours is Somerset. But yours is toned like yours isn't that like what's the
tone deaf, I think.
What's the full on Somerset accent sound like? Is it?
Well, I
confuse it with Gloucestershire because my mum's from Gloucestershire.
Nah, see that I would be like, what are you on about?
Yeah,
it's like I'm quite a bit more south than that.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a saying. I always tell everyone this story.
Have you toned yours down on purpose, or is it toned down to your friends? Compared to your friends,
I think I'd probably speak to my granddad and probably go into it a little bit more.
Yeah.
Well, but when I go home, I really notice their accent.
Yeah.
But there's certain things like I would say like laugh and grass and.
Oh, that's it. Yeah.
Like that, all my friends go, yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
I just think that maybe it's dumbed down a bit because I've lived in London for 5 years.
Yeah. Oh no, not dumbed down, but like watered down sort of thing.
Yeah. Like, or maybe it's because I was slightly conscious of it. Like to some of my friends, they think it's a very endearing accent, right?
That's what everyone says to me about the Yorkshire accent as well.
I think it is, but I also think that we're the piss take accent of the country. So, like, we've got the Wurzels. Okay, let me teach you a Wurzels song.
Yeah.
You know?
Also, don't forget to tell me the story you was going to tell me as well.
What was the story?
I know you said there's a funny story that you said. You'll remember it.
Oh, about what I would tell people.
Right.
Okay, so I think that's what you're on about. There was a guy called Edward. I don't know why I remember his name. I come from a little village where there was a pub, a church, and a lawnmower shop. You can't even buy milk, but you can buy a lawnmower.
Yeah.
Like, it's so Somerset.
You just get it out of the tap, out of the cow.
Yeah, exactly, with the cow in the back. Really lovely upbringing, actually. Like, a beautiful place of the world, lovely family. Like, without them, their support, like, wouldn't be doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But like, it's just a very small village, and we were sat at the pub bench at like 13, and someone had this Edward came up to us and he was like, "Here, guys," so we'd like proper Somerset. "You ain't seen no one round here, have you?"
Yeah.
And I'd be like, "What are you on about?" He said, "Well, what they done? They got an apple, they chopped an stick nails, he's like an hedgehog." Now, a lot of my friends will know what I'm talking about. And a lot of people were like, "What have you just said?" But someone had got an apple, they chopped it in half, stuck nails in it, so it looked like a hedgehog. But they'd put it behind his tyre, but he'd seen it. So he went, "Hey, boy, I seen you got an apple, chopped an stick nails, he's like an hedgehog." And we all just went, all right, Eddie, you know, like. But like, you hear those accents, and some people were like, "Oh, that's endearing."
Yeah.
I hear it and I'm like, "It's stupid." It's so stupid. So I think as a teenager, I probably dumbed it down.
Oh, right, yeah. That happens a lot with like people who go to big cities and have a unique accent. So I know that, like, from stuff that I listen to and watch in America, like, people who turn up in California with a Boston accent, for instance, try and get rid of it straight away, but some people don't. I don't know, like, I've been through periods of time where I've been like, "Oh, I'm not, I hear myself talking and I'm like, it sounds ridiculous. But actually, then I also go through more periods of times where I kind of, well, no, I'm committing to this. This is who I am. This is what I sound like.
Exactly, and isn't that like a great thing of why you are who you are, like what the music you like, and it's where your family are from.
Yeah.
And I think some people can't shift it.
Yeah.
Like, I would almost say that I couldn't imagine you without your accent now.
Yeah. Oh, of course.
And I'd say it's quite strong.
Yeah.
Same as Dan Francis Owen, such a strong accent. Whereas like Matt Bramwell, for example, was Scottish.
Right.
But you almost couldn't tell. Like, there's a little twang.
Yeah.
So I think I'd probably hit that cusp of things of like, I'm proud of where I'm from. I love it, and I've got a great stories of me and my friends of playing in the fields on our BMX, chasing sheep. You know, like that genuinely happened, and you never catch the sheep.
Yeah.
But like, I love that, and I'll never forget that. Yeah. And I think musically as well, never forget your roots. Just in everything, and that's why people sound like they do. And so I know I'm incredibly proud to come from Somerset, but I think I did spend my teenage years just being aware of it. Yeah, because it is the mistake accent of the country.
Yeah, and things like that, you can make sense of. I think also what happens with musicians when they come to London, as well, is that you tend to. This definitely happened to me, and it was my girlfriend that pointed it out to me. It's like the music in these towns around the country, particularly I found this in Sheffield, but I think it's probably true in lots of towns, maybe where you come from as well. There's a lot more kind of quirkiness, and it's a bit more interesting, whereas in London everyone's trying to do that session thing, and it gets a bit homogenized and focused on technique, or focused on everybody knowing those jazz licks, or that they're going to put into some metal guitar solo or whatever it is, or that chord voicing, and people lose the inclination to try and do something more unique, maybe.
Yeah, like having your own identity, right?
Yeah, and not knocking any kind of like of the artists that are out there or anything like that, but there's like, for mainstream pop artists, there's only a couple of there's a very narrow window of what it is that they're going to sound like, and you know before you hear it, probably what it's going to sound like. Not that it's not good, but you do. But I remember growing up when I started going to watch bands at my local, of which like big names came through. I always laughed because one of them was the Lost Prophets, whatever. But there was so many unique sounds, and it was all rock based. But there was so many unique different bands, and all the bands that I know are still making music from there and have done over the last period of time, all had some unique, quirky thing about them. And maybe I don't look enough in London, but I don't see. It's one thing I find I'm trying to get back to now, is to try and find some quirky combinations of sounds and try and be a bit more unique with when writing original stuff and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, original's tough, right? Because you can't help how you sound, and surely you pull upon references of what you've listened to throughout your life.
Yeah, but some people maybe write stuff because, this is a sound that's big at the moment, and I think this is a sort of place where you would.
And I guess that's where you become. Does that make you a good songwriter because you can adapt? But But then, if it's already happening, aren't you too late?
Exactly. This is the thing.
I mean, that's not really my area, and I wouldn't say it's my strong point of knowledge either.
Yeah. I like Queens of the Stone Age because when they start, what they talk about, Josh Homme, when he talks about Caius and Queens of the Stone Age, when they were growing up, they lived in a place that was so out of the way and so detached from all of the music scene that basically all the bands in that area, you'd get like bullied if you sounded anything like any other band.
Yeah.
So you always had to have your unique sound.
I'm a huge fan of Queens of the Stone Age. Probably like they're my ultimate band.
Dude, I'd love to do a podcast with Josh Homme.
What, dude? I actually saw that Nosami. Have you seen it on Netflix? It's Jesse Hughes and Josh Homme. It's the Eagles of Death Metal thing where the terrorist attacks at the Bataclan.
Oh yeah.
Sad.
Yeah.
But incredible.
Have you played there? Because you've done a lot in France.
No, I'd done Olympia.
Right.
Which is when they went back and played. I think that's how it worked. I hadn't done the Bataclan, but we were in France at the time.
Yeah.
I want to say we were in Bordeaux, but I don't honestly remember.
Yeah.
And we had a show the next day that was cancelled because obviously the whole of France just went, whoa. I mean, it was so, like, we weren't even in the same city.
Beyond comprehension. Yeah.
Yeah, like we were in Paris probably 3 or 5 days before. So we weren't even in it directly. We were in another city, but we were touring France at the time, and just the feel of the place. Yeah. Like, I mean, it gives me goosebumps thinking about it now. Like like I said, we're not even there. We're not even directly affected, but then you are affected in terms of like some of the guys. I can't remember who we were on tour with. I forget, but there was a French band, and I feel like some of their crew were friends with the crew who were at the Bataclan. Yeah. Who lost their lives. Yeah. And then so you see these people upset, and then you see these like management. That I won't talk as a whole, but like there was this management who was more concerned about the show being on tomorrow the next day because it was costing money. It was like, can we have some compassion here?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
This isn't even like affecting me directly, but the people on your team it is. Yeah, yeah. Like, just give a shit.
Yeah, and of course it's irrational that obviously their management are thinking kind of maybe logically where they're like, look, that's happened there. There's no way it's going to happen in Bordeaux or whatever the next night. That's like. It's almost less likely because it's happened there tonight.
Of course.
But at the same time, we're all humans, and we're all.
Whose life are you risking here?
Exactly.
And actually, don't forget, like, it's not just the people on stage; it's the people watching.
Yeah, yeah.
And I just that's when I see like corporate stuff, and I'm like, it's bigger than filling that bank account for that one night. Yeah. Or, I don't know. I mean, that's another thing together. But I remember being in France at the time. Yeah. And that was tense. And I remember, and I don't know if the whole tour got cancelled. I honestly don't remember. It was a couple of years ago. Yeah. But I remember getting to the border and on the ferries and this being this huge queue because everyone was leaving.
Yeah. It's one of the weirdest bands for it to happen to as well, Eagles of Death Metal. I fucking love Eagles of Death Metal.
Yes, what a band.
Just so... I've actually got a little project that I've kind of half-modelled on it a little bit. Again, talk about the unique thing, like, all the riffs are like, there's a little bit of atonal, chromatic-y, kind of, almost sounds like bad guitar playing on purpose, sort of.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When it's played badly, but so well.
Yeah, it's basically like dumbing your own playing down to make this tune cooler, sort of thing. Yeah. And I'm well into that. I really like that idea. So I've tried trying to do some stuff like that at the moment. But what a weird band for it to happen to as well, Eagles of Death Metal. Like,
I assume it was random, right?
That's what it must have been, yeah. Because it's like, it doesn't... They're not even that big a draw, do you know? I mean, it must have been the venue that they were kind of more in.
Yeah, the venue, I think it was sold out. I watched it last night. If you haven't seen it, check it out.
I've avoided it because I kind of like... I know he went off the deep end with all the gun stuff and all that sort of thing, but yeah, I think I'll have to get
So yeah, it's emotional. It's really sad, and the people, there's interviews with people who were there, and those are like, that's real life stuff. That's when you look at your own life and you go like, hopefully we look at it and you're grateful and you're fortunate for what you do have.
Oh yeah, for sure. Should bring it home
I know we can all take things for granted.
What sort of music were you into growing up? Because were you ever like, I know you had obviously the rock thing going on and stuff. Were you ever like a hip hop guy at all?
Yeah, I had a period for sure. Like, again, that's who you hang around with, right?
Yeah.
So there was a period definitely. So I definitely started with like the Blink. I grew up from my parents with the Beatles, Phil Collins, Stevie Wonder, Genesis, Queen. Yeah. Like, they're probably the main things. Thanks to my mum, Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah.
And at the time, I don't think I'd really understood it. And now I have these records. And my mum, I'm into my vinyl now. My mum gave me all her records. I've got this like 70s Rumours album, which doesn't really play. It's been played so much, it's just like scratches. But like I love it. And my mum was one of the biggest inspirations. There's always music being played. My dad's not that into music, although he says he loves Cozy Pound Rod Stewart. He doesn't really.
My mum loves Rod Stewart.
He really doesn't have a clue what he's talking about. And he'll hate me for saying that. But wicked footballer, I'm going to say that.
Oh, right, okay.
One of the top goal scorers in Somerset, I think, in the leagues.
Really?
Yeah, he was great. He was great. But yeah, my mum was so inspiring to me. So that's what I grew up with there. Then I moved on to like the Blink thing with Phil, and he was really into the Beatles. And then that grew to Foo Fighters, Queens of the Stone Age, and definitely did all that stuff. And then probably 16, 17, the guys I was hanging out with who weren't musicians but just like music, we then got onto the Eminem trail. Yeah. One of the first records I bought, the two first records I bought was Dre 2001. Yeah. Bought it on CD, and I bought Prodigy Fat of the Land. Okay. And I was with my mate Chase, and he was like, "You've got to get these records. You've got to get them." I was like, "Cool." Actually, Chase played saxophone at the time, but he's not a musician now. And he said, "Get these records." And I was like, wicked, bought them, spent my pocket money, got in the car with my mum because she'd been off shopping, and put them on, put Dre 2001 on. Yeah. And she was like, "You are not listening to this."
My dad hated it,
yeah. I mean, she let me keep the record, but as long as she couldn't hear me listening to it. And then I put on Fat of the Land, put on, Chase is like, "Put on Smack My Bitch Up," or whatever it's called. I'm like, okay, cool. My mum's like, "You are not listening to that." And it's funny, like I look back and go, wow, like I played that in front of my mum. I was like 10. Yeah. But yeah, I did the hip hop thing, and I got to Eminem, listened to Dre, and then all those guys in Tupac, and I found that. And then I probably found much more popular culture when I was 17, 18, going to sixth form, and then I went back to my roots of like the rock thing. Then I got into like, when I started depping at the hotel, it was like some foxtrots and that, and I wouldn't go and listen to it, but I'd have to have an understanding of it. Yeah. So I think I've had a varied thing, but yeah, for sure, like my roots are rock, and I don't think I'll ever lose it. But my mum worked in a music library. She was in the music section, the top floor. And I remember saying to my mum, I heard on the radio, it's like, Chili Peppers, can you get me some Chili Peppers? And she'd bring home any CD I wanted. Wouldn't cost me a thing, because you just essentially you borrow it, don't you? But she didn't cost her a thing. And she brought me back Blood Sugar Sex Magic, right? Yeah. And I flicked through, couldn't find this one song. I don't know, it must have been on Californication. Yeah. Flicked through and I went, no, it's not on there. Now it's one of my favourite records. Yeah. I was kind of a bit of I don't know the word's naive, but like as a kid, a bit stubborn. Yeah. I'm like, oh, that song I heard on the radio isn't on that record, or whatever. And now that's one of my favourite records. Such a great record. As a kid, I was like,
it's my favourite Chili Peppers record. I think it's easy to say, but I think it's a
Rick Rubin as well, isn't it? I think producing.
Yeah, where he actually did something and he just lay on a couch as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but he's sick. Actually interesting. He did a lot of the Eminem stuff as well. Yeah, he's a genius.
I was asking you about the hip hop because. There's been a few documentaries on this, but there's one on the Undisputed. There's the one with Dre and Jimmy Iovine.
Yes, which I started watching. What's it called?
The Defiant ones.
Yes,
brilliant documentary. I really liked that. Although I think I've said this before, but I'm suspicious as to how much producing Dre has done since he left NWA. Because I got really into it, read all the forms. I grew up listening to. My first thing was hip hop with Tupac and Dr. Dre and all that. Before all the other, and Michael Jackson as well, but me and my mates at school, there wasn't any rockers or anything. I was the first one who ever got anywhere near going towards that. And then when I got to college, well into the rock. But there's another, there's the All Eyes on Me Tupac documentary, which is brilliant. And
it's on Netflix.
Yeah, and then there's one called Unsolved, which talks about the murders of Tupac and Biggie, which is always like this thing about this big conspiracy when we were growing up, but it's like the actual police case.
But I actually love that stuff, because what's the other thing that's been a huge thing the last couple of years on Netflix?
Oh yeah, the Making a Murderer.
Yeah, and then there's all like spin-offs of that. Yeah. It's so good.
Yeah, oh dude, it's fascinating.
Everyone becomes a detective. Like, I'm now a policeman because I know exactly what's going on.
Exactly. Do you know what? If I wasn't a musician, someone told me I couldn't be a musician anymore, one of the things I'd love to do is to be like an investigative reporter.
Mate, I think you'd be absolutely brilliant.
Oh, dude, it'd be amazing.
I tell you what, with that beard, you can do anything you want.
Yeah, just turn up.
I missed the conversation of the beard thing, actually. So I was getting parking.
Oh, Jonny Brister is a barber extraordinaire and has
Well,
shaped...
no, not quite. Actually, I used to study hairdressing, but that's why I was like, I've got to get on that.
He's sorted out my beard because it was looking well homeless. I was letting it go a little bit, and I'm not really knowing what to do with it as well. But you just come here, sculpted it, done some topery on me.
Mate, when you've got a jawline like that, the work's done for me. The work's done for me.
Dude, my jawline isn't that great when I ain't got a beard, man.
This isn't really. Well, it's funny. Like people say when my beard's got shorter and shorter, and I'm really happy at this length. But I love that we're doing beard talk.
Yeah, dude.
But when I had a shave, someone was like, "Wow, your chin's really small," and I was like, "No one ever said that to me, like pre-beard."
Yeah.
But because you have a beard, like your face becomes longer.
Yeah.
Like you've probably gained like what 2 inches on your beard, maybe 3 inches.
Yeah.
On your face.
Yeah.
So you shave it, everyone's like small chin.
Oh yeah, people think I must think I look like Michael Phelps or something, or some fucking like all-American wrestler or something, like Desperate Dan, like with the jawline that it
As I say,
looks
though,
like I
it
have.
looks wicked.
Yeah, it looks great, man.
I'm very chuffed.
Oh, dude, I'm going to look after this now. I've not
Do it for
known
Sam's
how to do
wedding.
it. Yeah, Sam Weston. Congratulations, man.
Yes,
Shout
congratulations, Sam.
Hollery boy. Dude, thanks so much. I don't want to make you late for your gig or anything, man, but Johnny, where can we find you online and social media and stuff like that?
I think my Instagram is Jonny Brister.
Brister.
Maybe Jonny Brister Drums, I'm not sure. Same with Twitter. I am on both of those. I sometimes upload videos there, and I've got a website which is www.jonnybrister.com.
JohnnyBrister.com. So check him out. I'll put the links in the description and everything like that. Extraordinary session drummer, fantastically nice guy, and very talented beard barber as well. We're talking about a kind of side hustle, I think.
Right, it could be. Do you know what? Like I could start a thing.
Oh, dude. For the musicians.
Well, let's do a picture in a
Dude,
minute.
I honestly thought about like I could be a coke dealer for musicians in London. Like not to do it just to make the money, but like we're all looking for side hustles.
Right. I mean,
I had a legit dream when I was doing that. I was like, I figured it all out.
Really? Yeah, I've solved it. I mean, I end up in prison, but I've solved it.
Not that any musicians in London do coke, but
no, exactly. No one in the world does it.
But if they did, I didn't care about going to jail. I figured it out how to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Anyway, not to leave on a weird note, but I need to this gig for tonight, man. Dude, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Cheers, mate.
The Kind of About Music podcast.